Well, hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. This is the podcast where we really spend some time talking about this third pillar that's connected to the vision that we have as a church, which is to carry hope. Now, if you've watched the last few, you know that we've really just talked about this kind of in a macro sense. What does it mean to be a carrier of hope? Like, what does it actually look like? And we thought, kind of moving forward, what we'd love to do is actually bring people from our community, people who are connected to our church, who this isn't like a theory for, but like they're actually people who embody it. And we want to share their stories and really talk about what this looks like in the context of where they are. So I'll let everyone else introduce themselves and then we'll get into this.
You may remember me from previous seasons of Lost. But I'm also Ben. I'm the director of Zoe's. And I'm an aspiring male model.
That's great. It's a good thing this is a podcast.
That's right. I got a face for radio.
They'll understand all the jokes. Should I go next?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Stetson. Yeah, I work at Christ Community. I'm the next gen pastor. And I literally walked in the room and saw these three other people sitting here. And I said, what a gift. And then they said, do you want to join? And I said, what a bigger gift. So I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah.
It is a gift. I'm glad you joined. My name is Georgia Coates, and my husband Steve and I have been going to this church for a long time. I actually went to Christ Community as a college student a really long time ago, baptized here, and now we live in this community as sent ones from the church.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to get into that here in a little bit. But for a little context, like one of the things, right, for the whole idea of Carry Hope is that we want to empower people to live fully present right where God has them, right? A lot of times when you think about a missional space or living as a sent one, like whatever it is, like it's for the people who go overseas, right? It's missionaries, it's people who aren't here, it's people who are super holy or super spiritual. But we really want to dispel that myth because we believe that we've all been called to live as sent ones. We believe that all of us have been invited to carry hope right in the places and spaces that God has us. And Georgia, you and Steve are two people who I think do that incredibly well. Mm-hmm. But before we get to a little bit of your story and what you guys are doing, because that's really a part of the heart too, is we just want to share stories because God is doing amazing things, like not only globally, but right here in our own city. Yeah. And most of us just aren't even aware of what's happening. And so we want to bring awareness to that. We want to inspire people to step in and find their own places of where they can live. But Ben, I would love for you to maybe give a little bit of context because Georgia, we have a little bit of a unique relationship with you through Zoe's beyond just the church side. And Ben has actually been a big part of that. And Stetson's got to be a part of that too. So
my connection with Georgia started with her group that she participates with called Study Buddies, mm-hmm. which is a tutoring or mentoring group that helps some of the second, third generation immigrant families that are in the school systems here for the kids that just need help in school. Do you want to expand on that real quick?
I do.
Tell me about Study Buddies.
They're actually just first gen.
Okay.
The kids who have moved to the U.S. with their families, a lot of them are have had to learn English while they are in high school and middle school. But because their English is so good, they've tested out of the support programs in the school. But that doesn't mean they know all the academic vocabulary they need.
What is the percentage of that volume, do you think, in our district? How many?
Oh, gosh. I'm so bad at that.
Yeah, but just take a rough percentage, because I think you see the landscape of our city that's been changing for all these years, right? We have this inflow and outflow mm-hmm. of these sort of immigrant and refugee communities as well, but also the demographic of the working class in Greeley has changed. So we have this really beautiful, diverse and mixed bag, but it's a pretty decent amount of students. Specifically, I think Greeley Central is our main connecting school for that.
Yeah, and Brentwood Middle School. Okay. Yeah.
What is the percentage, do you think, of that?
I'm bad at percentages. Okay. I really am. Sorry. But I do know that, so in 2006 was when the meatpacking plant started actively recruiting from refugee populations. So that's when the population started changing so significantly. Right. So we are now seeing a second generation, and a third generation come out of that 20 years later, which is kind of amazing. But we really focus on the first generation, these kids that their parents rely on them for a lot of things because they know a little bit more of the language than they do, than their parents do. But they just need that extra support in school, and they often don't want to fight for support. Right. They don't want to do a group academic support because they don't want to take that away from someone else who also needs it.
Yeah.
And so our Study Buddies group kind of came out of that request right out of COVID, actually, where they were saying, look, we want help. We need specific help because they have these pieces missing in their academic vocabulary that they just don't understand.
Yeah.
Like math problems where
Right.
there's like, measuring a parabola that came from amusement park roller coaster. Well, if you
Right.
don't know what an amusement park is or a roller coaster,
Right.
so we're just Googling images of that first and then okay, here's how you measure the parabola.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
just filling in cultural and language information, and that there wouldn't necessarily ask in a more public situation. So it's one-on-one, one-to-one tutoring support.
I think one of my favorite things about Study Buddies is that, at least from what I know, like it's not just relegated to the educational piece. Like there is actually this thing that happens when you're in a relationship with people and you're showing up consistently, that you become aware of all of these other needs that people have. And you guys have actually been able to step into that in some pretty profound and beautiful ways, haven't you?
Yeah. So I love what Ben has said in the past about flourishing.
Yeah.
And I like this idea of mutual flourishing. And I believe in Christmas, that good news of great joy for all people. And I think for them to step into a space and to be invited, what do they need to flourish? What would make their lives full? And so like when they're like, we need to learn how to drive so we can get to school so our parents don't have to get us, we can get our parents to work and those kinds of things. So we embarked on that, which I had no idea what I was doing. But like Matt Larkin also said in that really great last podcast about carrying hope, was like, put your shoes on.
Yeah.
Like take the first step. And it was really just the belief that people can flourish in our community in the name of Jesus. And if you learning how to drive is a part of that, then I'll walk with you. My kids were also learning how to drive. So I'm like, if I'm going to teach
Both
one,
and.
we can
Yeah.
teach six.
Yeah.
I'm I can't really do a lot of car time anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
It's been a lot of 50 hours.
Do you want to teach my kids how to drive?
No.
They're
You
starting
could ask
soon.
Steve, but
Yeah,
no.
Steve's the guy.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
he is very patient.
We met, I think, not many people outside of our circle know this, that Georgia and I met in 2000 before her and Steve actually left for Michigan. The first time I had just moved back from Las Vegas with my wife. We had just gotten married and we plugged into all these churches. And the one that replied to us was Christ Community Church. And they had the care groups at the time. And so we were kind of paired with this young couples. At that time, we were all still babies. There was no gray hair yet. There was
Still babies without babies.
maybe one less chin in the general facial area. But and this was right before you guys were called to or sent, as you said, to go to Michigan. But we had a connection a long time ago. And then you went on this long journey before you guys came back. And I think that for me, one of the reasons that I'm excited for you to be on the podcast is I have this like fundamental belief that the larger church is actually really upheld by these people that I would call pillars.
Yep.
They're the people that have broken down the walls that we naturally live in or naturally create from ourselves of what does it mean to follow Jesus every day? What does it mean to live a life that reflects his image or just really takes and internalizes that this is what it means to actually do it? And so not only have you been and your husband have been pillars, but it's really tangible and visual to be able to see the things that you're doing. And I think that that's the part of hope that is intriguing, is oftentimes hope is this like conviction that we have deep down that something down the road can be possible.
Yeah.
And because we hold that as a hope, we actually live our lives moving towards something with some sort of expectation. And it's sort of just a natural reaction. If something means that this can happen, then I don't have a choice, right? It's just I participate. And then it's the hardship of what participation is. So Study Buddies is an example of something that you guys just naturally do because you see the world in a way that I admire quite a bit. And I think that we can all glean from that sort of experience and expectation to see the world more hopeful, that there is a future that can create flourishing, but it's not just flourishing outside myself and I can live in this world. And I think that's the separation that I see you and Stephen live in quite a bit. So because of that connection of study buddies and our relationship, we had this thing that Stetson had created years ago which was called College Dinner. Then we came up with this idea of how the IRC could be a partner with us for these college dinners. So what happened from there, and how did how did that thing run?
I love that idea. I love that our church is like, let's try it. Let's try something. Yes. So, but part of it came from this idea that, so in our study buddies group, there was a reality that some of the kids struggled in every place. Like they're learning language, they're in school, they're like everything they're doing is new and different. But a couple of young women are like, we know our way around the kitchen. So when we said, can we just cook for a night at Zoe's and just make it a night for us to cook as study buddies? And the answer was yes. It became this reality that cooking is also empowering. And so I have a group that I lead at the Immigrant Refugee Center, a women's empowerment group. And we're about showing up, loving each other, lifting each other up, and rising up to do things that we couldn't do by ourselves. And to me, that comes from 2 Timothy. God didn't give a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power and love and self-discipline. And that's kind of the model that I move forward with, we move forward with together. So in all that, cooking is an expression of joy, identity, craft. And so when Zoe's invited and the college group invited us to share a meal and share a piece of their lives and themselves, it was a very endearing invitation, because part of the fear of not sharing food is, will they like it, or will they judge us, or will we smell like, do I smell like onions or like these spices all the time? And so to say, we want to share a meal with you and we want to empower you to share that meal here is really beautiful. And then to really be able to give them the value and pay them for what they're worth to be skilled at what they do.
And talk about a little bit, like in our experience of this, and you can list the different ethnic cuisines that we've had, but talk about the difference in the experience of the people that are having the meal, where we walk it out to them, and then the people that are actually cooking it. I think we've had a mixed blessing. I mean, Stetson, you told me that, and you can share a little bit about that too, about your perspective of who, like we live in metrics, but like who benefited more from it. But you had an interesting perspective of that. Yeah.
Like when the goal of it was just to feed college students out of this love for them, they were the heart, and they still are, but now the heart for me by far is the person who's making the meal. Like, I don't care if, like, if I'm being honest, I don't care if the people out there like it. All I care about is that this person who came in experiences the love that we have for them, and in turn experiences the love that others have for them. Right. Like, for this person, like you said, it's like, I don't know, some of the fears that you said about when you make a meal, like, are they going to like it? Does it smell weird? Like, for people coming from different parts of the world, like, I think they have the same insecurities about themselves of like, are they going to like me? Are they going to accept me? Like, am I something that is like lovely and delightful? And I think when someone makes food like they do on these nights, they're not just sharing a part of their home, they're sharing a part of themselves.
Yeah. Very much.
And for an immigrant or refugee to walk out into the main eating area of our building and see 100 people delighting in them in a context where that is so often the opposite message getting communicated. So the love isn't just happening in the kitchen, but like they come out and they see people like delighting in their home and who they are. Like, you just see the joy on their face in experiencing that. And like, I don't know if any of them have like fully articulated that before, but it's just like, for me, that is the only goal of those nights now.
Yeah.
Like, I still want to feed college students and I still want them to feel loved.
Right.
But if this wonderful woman can know that, like, we love them and experience a room full of people, whether they are believers in Jesus or not, but certainly like a whole bunch of Americans saying, we love you and we delight in you and we embrace the thing that you have provided and we're grateful for it.
Yeah.
And even when we go out to these tables and like serve food, like we intentionally don't do like a buffet style. It's like, come on, cattle, like come to the trough.
Right.
But like we come to the table for this heart of hospitality of like, what can I get you? What would you like? How are you doing? And like forming relationships with these people. But what's cool is we have menus printed, but on the back side of the menu, we have the profile of the person who made the food. And so pointing them towards this and explaining what's behind it, they're like, wow, like this is amazing. And when they read a few paragraphs about the life of the person who's made them the food, and then they receive the food and then they eat it, it's just a whole other thing.
And go ahead.
Oh, and the other side of that is part of my joy in walking with women in our women's empowerment group is to help them tell their stories. And so I get to walk them through those stories.
And that's really important to you, right? Because we also put up that slideshow.
Yeah.
We have a slideshow that kind of loops through it, but you've made all these like last minute changes every single time because that's so vital.
Yeah.
And so why is it so vital to tell these specific stories?
I want them to be accurate. I want people to know they're seen and heard accurately.
Right.
And so if I get something wrong, I want to know that I got it wrong and get it right.
Right.
I also, like in my heart, I am a storyteller and I carry stories, and I just want to be a faithful carrier of people's stories.
Right.
So to do that well.
Yeah.
is
And you're
to make
breaking
sure
down
that-
these like little walls that we naturally create, right? And so like it's Somalian versus Somali, right? As an example of like the way that we use language, it's so cool to be educated, to know that it matters to get those things correct in some sense.
Yeah. So I had one of our study buddy girls was featured in her yearbook with a story and like pictures, and the pictures were awesome. And I said, I love this. So great. Do you love it? And she's like, well, they got this wrong, and they got this wrong, and they got this wrong. So she wanted to love it, but it wasn't accurate, and nobody likes that.
Yeah, because it gives a beautiful, accurate representation. And on the flip side of your example, Stetson, is on the outside in the cafe. I mean, I coach in like rural, small communities sometimes for football, and we would joke oftentimes that people are like, I don't really like the mix of food. I always use this funny joke where there's a dad that is a good friend of mine now, and he's like, the only thing that I like to dip my fries in is ketchup. That's the only fusion food he'll do, right? So we just have these natural stigmas in our own culture of that. And so when these things come out, it's almost like this subversive way where like, oh, just shut up and eat it.
Yeah.
And so you do that from like this motherly thing of like, you eat what's in front of you.
Yeah.
But because you've created this really beautiful space of hospitality, it's an encouragement to, hey, engage the story. This matters, and we're doing something specific. But then the food has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And if people really dig into the food world, there's such a minuscule difference between something somebody's making and something. So the dish we had this last week was a lamb stew, very, very similar to chili Colorado, red chili pork, which is so common in our area, but it had its nuances of spice, but it was phenomenal in its flavor. And when people then are telling this cook or this chef that, man, we love this, it bridges both gaps because it's challenging us to get out of our world a little bit of those things that we taste.
So can I tell another side of this too that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Like, so when you don't, if you've ever lived in another country or visited, you don't know what spaces are good spaces to be in.
Yeah.
You don't have natural filters for that. And so you go where you know. So like when I studied, Steve and I lived in Lebanon for a semester. We went to the same places every day because we understood the systems of those places. So a lot of times our clients at the Immigrant Refugee Center will come to our center because they trust the center. It's familiar. And then they see faces and people they trust. And then so when they know me and they trust me and I say, will you come to Zoe's? And then they get to know you, Ben. And then they're like, I know Ben and I know Georgia. And then from there, that becomes a safe place.
Yeah.
And they have, some of them are parents with their kids aren't study buddies. So they've come because of, they've dropped their kids off or something. So Zoe's is becoming a familiar, safe place for more of our immigrant and refugee community. So then when Sanait cooks her Eritrean food, we had 3 of her friends who were just going to come support her because her food's amazing. So then those 3 women are like, and then they, they always want to come in and see the kitchen and stuff like that. And so it's become the space it's supposed to be, right? The space we want Zoe's to be, a space of abundant life and flourishing and connection. And so that happens with these women, but then it's also at the center, it's become this place of what? Like, there's food there and it's good food and it's our food. Like, and so then they come, others from the center, our staff, and they're blessed by it. It lifts us up because it's hard work.
They're hosting classes there too.
Yeah. And this kind of gets at one of the things that we talked about in some of the first iterations of this podcast, right? Hope, I think, is one of these things that far too often in Christian circles, we really limit it in its scope and scale. It's like, all right, what is hope? Well, it's going out and preaching the good news to people and they get saved. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's a part of it. But like, there is this whole experiential part of what hope looks like. Like, how do we embody hope in a space like Zoe's? How do we embody hope in a community like the refugee community? Like, it might not start there. It might just start with, hey, this is a safe place where you're loved. This is a safe place where you're welcomed. And right now, that is good enough. Right? Because out of that is where things start to flourish and grow and where really beautiful things happen. And I've heard stories from you of some of these beautiful things. But it's just so important for us when we think about what it means to be a carrier of hope, to have this broader perspective. Because sometimes when it's way too narrow, we feel like it's out of grasp. And so we don't even go for it. But if we can broaden it to be like, no, like hope is this thing that we could experience in every part of our life. It is this thing that we can bring into every relationship that we have. Well, then suddenly the doors are opened. The stories coming out of the college Zoe's IRC kind of little trifecta that you guys have, like, they're beautiful. Like, they truly are beautiful. The conversations happening there. But one of the things that I really want to key in on here is like, Georgia, you and Steve, you have this heart for the people who aren't here yet, right? You do have a heart for the immigrant refugee population. You guys are doing things both locally and globally, and it is absolutely beautiful. But the thing that I find the most fascinating is everything we're talking about right now, whether it's the stuff with Zoe's and IRC or college ministry, like none of that would have happened unless you guys had that heart, right? So you guys planted down into a community. You have committed your lives to living as sent ones with a particular people group. And obviously that's very hard and that's very challenging. But there has been this not only inspiration, but also this invitation for other people to step into that and to experience that. Like, I would love for you, if you're able to, just to unpack a little bit of that.
Yeah, that's like 10 things in my head. Well, so first I want to tell you this story about, I think about hope, and that just I've heard, like you were saying, is hope this like kind of this idea that we like, this expectation or wish, but for people who suffer and people who walk long roads, hope is literally, as Hebrews says, an anchor for their souls. And so, I hear people in our culture, a dominant American culture, say, like, oh, well, I don't have faith because why would God let people suffer? And then I went to Malawi and I spent 2 weeks listening to people's stories of trauma healing, and they were filled with hope. Like they had literally asked this question, if God loves me, why am I suffering? And the trauma healing content that we went through was to help them understand that process and find healing and transformation. Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual transformation. Hope is their lifeline. So I'm like, if I can be in a refugee camp, people finding hope and community and joy and holding on to it as a lifeline of community and serving others, who am I to go back and think, well, I don't know if I can hold on to hope because people suffer. People who suffer hold on to hope. That's how they live. That's how they survive. Yeah. Even I was watching this thing, the UN for High Commission of Refugees, they're like, we can give aid. We can help people, provide them with shelters, but we can't give them hope. And so they brought all these religious leaders together and said, we realize people won't survive the long trek of a refugee journey without hope. Wow. And they realized they needed to work in collaboration with faith leaders to make that happen. And so what I have learned in these spaces is the people I am neighbors with at the refugee center have a resilience and a hope and a faith that I want more of. And so it really is a place that I feel like I am learning, like, wow, with what you have faced and what you've been through, and you can't even communicate to me all the things you've been through. But when I help them write those stories on the back of the menu, and I'm like, you lived in Sudan and Israel, and then you show up in Greeley, Colorado? Yeah. Like, welcome. Yeah. And what is that journey like? We don't even have that much language. We just have enough language to be like, do you want pepper in that? Yeah. Do you want potato? Like, how do you want these potatoes cut? But so I know they carry this amazing centeredness and hope with them that I'm like, I just want to be next to that. And I want to learn from that. And I do think hope is an anchor for our souls. And I've heard in places of struggle that hope is also a discipline, and hope is action. It's not just, wishful.
How has that been difficult, or not difficult, but we were talking a little bit before we started about being sent for you has been a journey that has been, from your perspective, you're very careful about how you talk about that because you want to be very specific about how hard that is for people to change. What are some of those things that have been hard in this long journey that you and Stephen have gone through that have helped you come to that place where when you communicate, there's specific language to being sent? And what's that journey been like?
So I don't know if I'm just naive or just... just like I believe it. Like, so when we talk about I like in church, just applying the sermons, like Lord, give me ears to hear and eyes to see and spiritual attentiveness. Lord, I want to see more and I want to know more. I want to love my neighbor. And so it really is like taking one step towards that. And then with that one step, I'm like, oh, there's another step. And I feel like a little girl holding God's hand, like, he's like, come with me, come with me. And do you trust me? And you're going to love this person. And he's right every time. I'm like, I do love this person. And so it really starts there. It really starts with, Lord, give me eyes to see and ears to hear and help me take the first step. And with that step comes the next one and the next one. And then it's, lunch on someone's porch. And then it's come inside. And then it's, oh, let's share this time together. Or, oh, you need a ride there. And, let me, so it's all those baby steps. But the more you love, the also you share in grief. And there's a lot of grief and suffering, especially in our current climate, for immigrants and refugees. And their families, and fears that are both imminent and fears that are irrational, but you don't know. Maybe they're not irrational. Sure. And so when you call people your friend, you hurt with them, you mourn with those who mourn,
And thinking about that, like that's hope personified, right? Like, so when we think about the traditional paradigm of bringing hope to people, it's a proclamation, you throw it out there, what people do with it, like it's on their own. But like the way that you and your husband and really your family have stepped into this is like, you guys are living as hope embodied, right? And when you're embodied, that means you're in a relationship. And when you're in a relationship, it means you get to, celebrate with those who celebrate. And there's a lot to celebrate, but you also weep with those who weep and you grieve with those who grieve, right? Living this way as a sent one who carries hope, like there's beauty, and I don't imagine you would trade it for anything, but like there is a very high cost to this.
Yeah. It is, cost. And like I always think, is it a chance to lay down my life, or is it the fullness of life? It's both. It's both. But in 2000, I was diagnosed with leukemia, right before we were thinking we're going to head overseas and live a life in some other place and adventure. And so at that time, it was clear that we are called to immigrant and refugee communities in this country. So my journey with leukemia has been chronic. And from that, God has built in me this, I call it chronic hope. And so hope is very real. Lifeline for me. Like, it's chronic. It's a chronic because resilience, through suffering comes resilience. Through resilience is where we get hope. And people who struggle arrive at hope as their lifeline. And so for me, it's been a very chronic process. But when been living in different places, when we were living in a Middle Eastern community in Michigan, we lived there 17 years with that immigrant community, and they served me. I was sick and pregnant and on chemo, and my neighbors would come over and bring food, or, we bought an extra flat of strawberries, and here's one for you. And so the witness and the service we thought we could have, we didn't. But our marriage became more of a ministry of, wow, look how Steve loves her and cares for her. He could leave her, because, and so that he cared for me, was more of a life-giving gospel message than any service we could have been doing at that time. It's very humbling, but I think hope is it's very practical. It's not, we don't need a big strategic plan, just a step forward in that God is my anchor. He's leading me down this path. I trust him. And I believe that he's got something good for me and my neighbor in this space.
Yeah, I love excuse me. I love, I just go back to pillars, and I've said it to you, I don't know how many ways, but I'm going to say what I think I'm feeling and what lots of people feel when they listen to Georgia's story is there's a lot where you're like, wow, there's a lot more to this than I have known or experienced. And I would confess, and I think most of us would confess in our own ways, the word privilege is way overused, I know, in our culture, but there's a truth to it. And I think just from being a person that follows Jesus, there's my own privilege that gets revealed in being in relationship with you. And because of that, and watching you guys from distance, from newsletters for years or those connecting points, there's something that has always been this nag, this thorn of challenge in my own life to say that there's so much more to what it means to follow Jesus when it comes to those things. And I give a lot of rhetoric to it. I'm a guy that likes to talk, and I listen to people that can talk about it. But I'm way more intrigued in the long run of people who have feet on the ground and do it. And I think that that's been such a blessing for me. And I hope that we would take that as an encouragement as well, to say that this thing is way deeper and broader and more life-giving. And just to see the people that embrace the hardship in a way to find the hope on the other side of that or during that as they grow has been such an inspiring thing. And so I confess that this journey at Zoe's with just knowing you and knowing these other stories and seeing them has really challenged me to say, this is more. And I'm excited to walk in more because of your story together and the things that you're doing, which is why now it becomes a default. You just have to do it. There's just it's in front of you. And so as we are more aware of those things, it helps us to move towards that deeper, more fulfilling life that God's given us as an opportunity. So,
well, thanks for that, Ben, because I feel like I know my limitations and I can only do this much. But when one of our values at the IRC is connecting communities. And when Zoe says yes, and church says yes, all of a sudden there's more people. There's your side of the story and your side of the story and your side of the story. There's the resources you bring. I can't direct the kitchen, but I can cut tomatoes and I can help tell a story and bring a phenomenal chef along, And so it just more people get to experience the fullness of that when we work together.
And we've responded in our own way. So we go into our city initiatives in these other areas. Those are just natural outflows of us trying to say we want to be present and intentional for where we are and be able to move into those things as they present themselves.
So I love this idea of scooching over, in the pews or in church when there's lots of extra people coming in for baptism. It's if everyone would scooch in, a chair, there'd be room for someone else. And that's really where God pushed my heart was scooch over, scooch over, let one more person sit down. And I thought, if I can just scooch over one, That's all.
Yeah.
And then with that,
Yeah.
it just keeps
Going.
I hear another element in that, though, of, I don't know, you're not talking about things that you've done. You're talking about things that you've discovered.
Yeah.
And that you've learned.
Yeah, thanks.
And like, it reminds me of some guy, I forget his name, but he wrote this beautiful book. And he wrote, it's like, if you want to introduce someone to Jesus, don't send them into churches, send them into the slums, because that's where you'll find him. And I'm not at all equating the areas of our city that immigrants and refugees live in as the slums at all. But like, the heart of that quote is like, Jesus is most present in the areas and with the people that his heart identifies and like aches for. And so it's almost as if they scooched over for you to like take a seat in their pew, and you're sitting in between them and Jesus.
Yeah.
And understanding far more who Jesus is by spending time with the people that he's the closest to.
Yeah.
And so like, it kind of gives this double meaning to carry hope. It's like, when you carry hope, you're also carried into it at the same time too.
Right.
And discovering it.
Right. Because the things that they bring and give me that I can't communicate with them, like my friends, I'm like, it's so beautiful. And things I do, I'm like, I can give you a ride. I can connect your kid with a tutor.
Cut tomatoes.
I can cut tomatoes. But what they bring to me, I can't get that on my own. Yeah.
Being present, like, it changes everything. Whether it's being present with the city and the initiatives, or with our refugee neighbors, like, it opens the door for people to experience more of hope. Georgia, I feel like we could literally sit here for the rest of the day recording, because we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of a lot of the stuff that you and your husband are doing, and the refugees here in our city. That is just one of the many areas where you guys are sent. And so if you're okay with it, like, I would love to be able to have you back on the podcast again, and just to be able to tell more stories. Like I shared, like, the whole heart of this is to expose our church and our community to the things that God is already doing, to the people who are carrying hope right into our community. And we're not sharing stories just for the sake of sharing stories. Like, there is a part of that. We want people to be aware of what's happening. But more than that, we want you to be inspired, right? Because Georgia and Steve have been called and sent to work with refugee populations. You've been called and sent to work with people as well. And it doesn't always involve having to go overseas. Sometimes it's just opening your eyes and your heart and your ears to the needs that are all around you. And so I would love to be able to keep this conversation going in the coming months, just to be able to hear more about what's happening. If people are wanting to know more about the IRC and some of the work, and there's people who maybe heard about study buddies or these college dinners, and they're like, hey, we would actually love to come see and to be a part of that, like, would I be able to send them your way and to get them connected with you?
We have connected a few people. And they've been coming, volunteers have been coming to eat dinner. And then some of the volunteers recognize some of the clients that have been cooking, and that's been awesome. So
if you're open to that and you want to know more, shoot me an email. We'll have my email down below. I would love to get you in contact with Georgia, or maybe you want to talk to Stetson or Ben about ways to get involved in some of the things that they're doing. But church, in kind of closing, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a people who give us the freedom to go after these things. Thank you for being the kind of people who want to carry hope into spaces that sometimes are hard and difficult, but at the end of the day are still beautiful. And so thank you for tuning in today, and we will see you next time.